The first tip that I do is push breakfast back later into the morning. I wake up at around 5 or 6 a.m. every single morning. And that means that I am up earlier, so I get hungrier earlier. And if I have breakfast at, half an hour after waking up, so it might be 5:30, it could be 6, even 6:30, then that means that I've started consuming calories at a very early time of the day. And that just gives me more time to be hungry and consume more calories. So as a way to protect myself from overeating, because if I don't stick to my calorie deficit, let's go back to the nutritional priorities. If I don't stick to my calorie deficit, then I'm not going to lose body fat. I'm just going to maybe maintain my weight, which can be fine. But if you're trying to lose fat, that is failing. Let's be clear. So if I start eating early, which I have no problem doing if I'm maintaining my weight or even in a calorie surplus, I love starting my day early because I'm starving after sleeping, however many hours I sleep. But in fat loss, I just push it back. This is not intermittent fasting. I want to be clear with that. I'm not making a eating window of 8 hours or 6 hours or 4 hours to try and stick to a intermittent fasting schedule. All I'm doing is literally pushing my hunger back, having a bit of discipline, having a bit of grit, because I'm starving in the morning. So I get busy. I work. If my daughter wakes up and then I look after her for an hour or so, then I look after her and I'm engaged. So I find that a lot easier to stop myself from eating when I'm engaged. So I'm not telling you to go and have a kid just to make sure that you're engaged in the morning. I'm saying if you engage yourself, it's a lot easier to stop thinking of eating cereal, drinking a smoothie, eating eggs on toast, whatever you want to have. It's a lot easier when you're engaged. As a self-employed person, I find it easy to find things to do. If you struggle with finding things to do, then find a hobby. Find something to do. Read, watch a video, learn a new skill. I just think that being engaged is the way forward. A lot of people overeat. In general, this is not just for fat loss, but people overeat when they are bored. It's just something that we gravitate towards because that is instant comfort. If we eat and it tastes good, it's like, oh, that feels nice. But if you eat and you do, like, if you're engaged and you're working on something or you're focused or you're in flow state doing anything, maybe you like to read fiction, this stuff can really take your mind off eating. And I'm not telling you to starve yourself as well. So there is a balance. If you're super hungry, like, eat. But one of the things that I do is I have coffee in the mornings. So I have that before my meal. So when I wake up, 30 to 60 minutes after I wake up, I'll have a black coffee. And caffeine has an appetite suppressant effect. So that can also help you push breakfast back. I always have coffee regardless. But sometimes when I'm in a building phase and I'm in a calorie surplus, I might have my coffee after my breakfast because I want to eat as many calories as I can. So you have to understand, with my calories, they're very high. So my maintenance is around about 3,500 calories. So if I'm in a calorie surplus and I'm trying to build, I'm eating around 3,800 to 4,000 calories per day. And that's quite tricky to get through. So I like to eat as early as possible, and I like to have a smoothie, and I jam pack it with calories. So it's about 1,200 calories. And I have that. And I don't want to have coffee before that because that's going to make me not hungry and push my breakfast back, which is good for fat loss, but not so good for a calorie surplus. So I'm just explaining this so you can see why I'm doing things and maybe you can incorporate it as well. I find that the coffee is better for me after about 30 to 60 minutes of being awake. I did used to just have it straight away and realize that it just kind of made things worse. In about an hour, in about 90 minutes, I just felt like I wanted to go back to sleep. I felt like I needed to crash. If I push it back 30 to 60 minutes, for some reason, it just feels like this nice, slow energy release that I pick up and go with throughout the morning. So that's what I do. I've pushed my breakfast back from about 6:30, 6 o'clock, 5:30 to around 8:30, 9:30, even sometimes 10. It just really depends on what my day looks like. Sometimes I have to have breakfast at home and then come into the Team Brock Ashby body quarters and start work and, record or, train clients or whatever I have to do. So that's the first thing that I wanted to get out of the way, because how you start your day is very crucial with fat loss. If you start the day and you're already like 500 calories in or 800 calories in, and it's only 7 a.m., man, if you're on a lot lower calories than me, then you're going to, you might only have 1,000 calories left for the day and you have to endure another 14 hours of being awake. So then it's like, oh man, how do I figure this out? I'm going to have to really push myself during this time and not eat here. And it's going to require more grit and resilience. And sometimes during the day you are out and about and there's convenient foods everywhere and you'll just take it. But if you can push those calories back, like 9, 9:30, 10, if you can handle it, that can often help you bunch your calories later on. So then when you get to dinner time or when you get to lunchtime or whatever time you start eating, you might have a bigger calorie allowance left. That's my first tip. Something that I'll put on the back of that isn't something I was actually necessarily going to talk about is what I like to do, just because it helps me sleep better, is have a very big dinner. So even when I'm in fat loss, and by very big, that doesn't necessarily mean calories, but it can mean just very big, like a big volume of food, because it gives me this, it's actually called postprandial somnolence, which is a technical word for having a food coma after you eat. But after you eat a lot of calories or a big volume of food, especially, you want to have that fiber nice and high whilst you're dieting, it can give you this kind of lull, sleepy. You finish eating and you just kind of sit back on the couch. You're like, oh man, I like that feeling at night. It helps me sleep better. Some people don't sleep well with a full stomach. It causes them, discomfort. But I'm not one of those people. So that's another thing that I like to do as well. I like to sleep on a big meal because it kind of sustains me throughout the night. If I don't, I wake up throughout the middle of the night and I'm hungry. And that is not a good situation to wake up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. starving, because you're not... At 2 or 3 a.m., if you wake up starving, you don't feel like a carrot. You don't feel like an apple. You don't feel like, a spoonful of Greek yogurt. You feel like the Ben & Jerry's that's in the freezer. So that's just a practical thing that you need to kind of watch out for.